Hi all, I've set a casual mode for doing this puzzle today, so we're going to have a much larger time allowance, 1200, so that's like 20 minutes. So let's have a look in detail now at this. This was given 3 out of 5. So how would we solve this? First let's look at the tactical liabilities of the opponent or our trump cards. Both are very useful to look at. One of our trump cards here is we've got a nice battery of bishop and queen pointing in this direction. Another one, actually, we've already taken some escape squares from the king. These two, and this one. In fact, that's almost ripe for checkmate. The mating net construction is very good there. And it's very, very active rook. We've actually got a lot of trump cards. The opponent hasn't got too many immediate tactical liabilities. There's no definite unprotected pieces. There's almost this piece though is under pressure and it's only protected by one piece. This could become an unprotected piece at some point. So the intuitive assessment, it's very, very good that the king seems in a bad spot here. Now let's start looking at some candidate moves, and we'll try and prioritize forcing moves. So what forcing moves are good to consider in this position? The ones which are almost like if-thens are vital to consider, because there's very, very limited options on them. So the most forcing moves first. So let's have a look. With this very active rook or this battery, there's actually quite a few options, weird and wonderful options. There's rook h3 as a forcing move, knight h1, knight e4. These are all limiting opponent's options. Let's have a look at rook h3 first. Does it actually do anything? The knight's protecting this pawn, so let's imagine pawn takes. And then what could we do? Pawn takes, there's two aspects of looking at pawn takes. There's the weakness of the last move, it unprotects f3, and there's the weakness of the last move in terms of the position, in terms of the connections and interruptions of that. It's opening up this, and it's opening up this diagonal. So this diagonal is opened up with rook h3, and this rank is more exposed. Let's just keep a note of that. There's also, these forcing moves might also work together as a team. This forcing move is also interesting. Knight takes e4 check. It seems White might be able to play knight takes e4. And, okay, what does it achieve? It opens up this diagonal to g1, all the way to g1 if needed. But it also, taking out this pawn, does cause a weakness of the last move. If taking there, we would have potentially knight f5. That's another thing. In fact, knight f5 it should be on our list of forcing moves as well. So knight f5 is also interesting as a forcing move to look at. And there's also knight h1. So there's a whole load, a raft of different forcing moves in this position. Quite interesting. So let's see, how can they all work together? Or what is a very, very good sequence? Let's look at knight h1 check again. Now knight h1 check rather. In fact, there's two options: rook takes or even king takes. King takes in principle looks risky, but is there a refutation of that? Can't see an immediate one. The bishop is covering e6, so there might not be queen e6 check. Here's another forcing move, by the way. Rook takes c4. Unless there's like rook takes, there could be rook takes f2, where whites might not be getting mated. If it is the case that queen takes c4 is getting mated. So yeah, we can see a whole number actually. Rook h3, knight h1, knight f5, and rook takes c4. Okay. Let's see. Nothing springs out that concretely. It's actually, this is probably a pretty tricky one. Let's start looking at knight h1 again. Knight h1, rook takes. Is there anything there in any case? Actually, I think we can safely rule this out after rook takes h1. I cannot see any way through. I don't see any big advantage of knight h1 fundamentally in either a weakness of the last move or a weakness of the last move in terms of the position. I cannot see too many advantages. The only thing it does open up that g1. Let's look at rook h3 check again. This does seem to force g takes. Okay, anything tricky there? Can we use another forcing move or anything? In fact, pardon me, in our consideration of forcing moves, there's a more subtle version where you can threaten checkmate as well. So f5 needs to be on our list because f5 almost threatens checkmate with f4. So this is almost dangerous as well, just f5 in fact. Okay. So f5, there might be rook takes f2, and if f4, there might be bishop takes f4. So at the moment, I'm not convinced by that either. There's nothing that stands out as majorly convincing at the moment. Let's have a look at knight f5. This is very, very forcing, and it causes a weakness of the diagonal actually, not of the last move, but of the last move in terms of the position. It opens up this diagonal, knight f5 check, and there's only one reply to take. And that actually does lead to the possibility that queen c6 might be useful, or something like that, knight f6. Okay. This is a tricky one. So yes, so these are giving some insights as well, these forcing moves into the position. Let's look at rook h3 check again. G takes. Rook h3, there's not too many options. G takes. Tricky. Okay. There's another thing which is interesting. We can threaten a mate in 2 almost, or 3, I believe, with f5. I've just noticed that this opens up this rank actually, so there's the possibility of queen h6, but this is guarded actually. H6 is guarded, but we can coordinate with the rook on h4. You can imagine if we had two or three moves, f5, queen f6 threatens queen h4 mating. So actually f5 might have something really going for it in terms of creating another forcing move, queen f6. So let's imagine f5, rook takes f2, and look at queen f6, not queen h6 because that can be taken. Queen f6 there. That's interesting actually. All of a sudden, that is all of a sudden quite interesting. Because the bishop, we're making use of the battery as well. The bishop is still guarding that escape square, f2 potentially. So f5 threatens to win material anyway with f4. That seems pretty destructive. Taking, we can play queen f6. This seems very, very strong actually, because if you think about it, rook h1 is ruled out by knight takes. So yeah, I'm starting to believe f5 is the only promising path found now. So that's based on it's creating a kind of opportunity of the last move in terms of position, in terms of connections, not interruptions, connections. This queen coming across, opening up that rank basically for queen f6. Let's imagine bishop g5. I think we can just win material with f4 check in any case. And in fact, if takes, we can play to win more material with the check here. Queen c7 would win the bishop there. So I think that's very, very promising now, actually. F5 does seem, to me, to be the most promising candidate move. Now, there was a period of uncertainty there where I don't think any of these were working just then, and it occurred to me, yeah, when we say forcing moves, I think there's a massive subset of that is to be able to threaten, if you had another move, but mate in 1, or threaten a mate in 2, or even 3. So 1, 2, 3. It seems quite a long-winded thing, but in a way that is a serious consequence which needs to be parried, basically. So that does, because it's a serious consequence, it does restrict the number of candidate move options. I think that's my favourite so far. I think we should try this now. Or actually, before we do, let's look at rook takes f2. So the idea, queen f6, we're threatening mate here. It's very difficult for white to do anything there, isn't it? If rook takes f5, queen h4 is mate. Bishop g5 to try and slow things down, queen takes. Even if that rook moves, the beauty of this battery, we're still guarding f2. So, okay, I'm going to play f5. Ah, it is the move. Okay, so I thought this is the threat that really needs to be parried with high priority, queen f6, rather than f4. I think on f4, the problem with f4 takes rook takes guards f6. So I think queen f6 here is very dangerous. If rook h1, I think we can just take that and still threaten queen h4. Yeah, this looks very, very clear cut all of a sudden. From what was misty before, it looks pretty clear cut to play queen f6. I think I'll go for that now. Yes. Well, I think I did benefit from the extra time, and so that was a prototype as well, by the way, for the extra time, and I think I'll make that as user interface option for your own use of this system. As I say, the ratings here are private to yourself, so that will soon be a parameter to set if you want 10 minutes or 20 minutes or even an hour. That should be parameterizable. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this this video. I think I did. Yes, it was more intense than usual because of the extra time taking away that pressure, just to try and get to grips really with more of the finesses of the position and the more subtle threats, which are sometimes involving threatening mate, not just in one move or two moves, but in three half moves, or ply as they're called. F5 is one ply, two ply, three ply. So there's a three ply threat which is actually being activated here. There's a master game it came from. Let's have a quick look at that. So this is Louis Gallego against Fernandez, Antonio Fernandez. Let's flip the board. So it's a Sicilian defense, a can variation, and very, very aggressively played with this h5, this bishop lurking on that diagonal. Very, very aggressive. And yeah, the fishing pole left. It's very, very nice for black. This from an attacking point of view, it's very, very interesting at least. So we get this position where black hasn't even castled anywhere, and now, oh, the fishing pole. It's really a beauty of the fishing pole to activate this rook, but that knight controlling h1 and the beautiful battery here means this is really quite deadly when the queen and rook are combining. It's very, very logical if you think about this game. Very, very logical game. Well played, Antonio Fernandez in 1996. Okay, comments, questions, likes, shares appreciated. Thanks very much.